what's the energy to go to the storytelling workshop. I just have two general models that I want to introduce, and let's see if people are what time they want to do that, or not at all. That's fine also. So we'll see.
What did you say?
Which the same
Same as on there.
Oh yeah, honestly.
Okay. Yeah. We can put it on once. Sorry, I'm going to use this one because mine's not working at the minute for the moment. Okay, so
I also have my iPad you can use.
this is dropped off as well, right? Yeah. That's the score, man. Really is, yeah. But oh, people coming out here. Actually, right now OBS is yeah. Let's do this. The OBS.
So, Josh, the contribution from Severin, it's in the spreadsheet, so we can put it from 9 to 10. That's what I see missing.
Sorry, a few technical difficulties. If you can hear me, yeah, okay, we'll put Severin in from 9 to 10. I'll go back over there. So Monique and Ome, you guys are currently just floating at the minute. Severin from 9 to 10. Federico, since you're here, what time do you want to do your discussion presentation? You're open as well. Okay, because it'd be nice to fill them in and just get the schedule on the site. So let's just put in random times for everyone else. Does that work for everyone?
Just don't put the one about forks anywhere.
Sorry, too many computers in one place. What do you say, mate?
You can put mine in. Say, let me see. Let me look at the schedule. There's time. Ooh, that's late. It's 23:30 after that one. It's okay. Maybe a little bit earlier. That's a bit late. I don't know. But there's no time anymore before, so.
Well, we have a whole second room. We can put you in the divergence room, and we can maybe move some stuff around as well into the divergence room. We can keep people at the same time.
Josh, let's see how many people at a certain moment in time want to do that. Let's say you either, I don't know, what would be a nice parallel to storytelling?
I'm just looking at them now. So we want to probably do some kind of opposites. I imagine their education will be a thing for you. So maybe 5 o'clock with Sam's interfaces and dynamic modeling.
Yeah,
you guys.
Okay, if Sam is okay with that as well, because he will probably be more on the technical side and I'll be more on the story side. So that's fine for me. Yeah. Say 5. Okay, you can put me there.
Cool. I'll put Monique at 5. I'll get these onto the site in a bit. Federico.
I thought you already said it.
You did already say it, but shall we put you in and around so 6:30, 6?
It's fine, man. Just tell me now.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yes. 6, you said. 6:36 actually 6, right? From 6 to 6:30 or what?
Let's do 6:30 because yours will contrast with Jamina's, and I'll put Jamina over into the divergence. I'll put you in the convergence. Those. Ome didn't want to do next one. Well, doesn't know yet. Any other loose ends that we have? Two. Self-awareness. We don't know Severin. He's going to be at 8ish, I guess. Thomas.
Yeah, there's Thomas and Severin was left. Is Thomas out?
No.
Oh, Severin's at 9, okay.
Where's he there?
Just Thomas fit in. Let's put that in line. Maybe Thomas and Roberto at the same time. I don't know. What do you guys reckon? Roberto, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, we could, for me it's okay. We can have a conversation and then end up with the demo, but then I don't know if I can do it, we can do everything in half an hour. So maybe we should, I don't know, one
I'm
after
afraid
the
he can't hear you, bro.
Oh, okay. I mean, it's too soft.
Just shout over to me.
Ah, I see. Okay, I will change my audio. I see there's another microphone up there. No?
Can't
Nothing?
hear you.
Okay. No better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's better.
Push to talk. So, for me it's okay, but I'm afraid that, so we can do that first, we have a conversation and then we present neutralize as one of the solutions. However, I don't know if then all of that together is going to be fitting in half an hour. So I think we should just ask Thomas if he's okay with it. We can ideally first our conversation and then Thomas, but then we can see basically how much it is then. Before I didn't hear it, so I set myself at least 5:30. I was still there for that time.
You're currently in there at 5:30, but it's a half-hour slot before Alban comes on.
Yeah, yeah. So half an hour for me it's okay. For me plus Thomas, I'm not sure.
Okay.
So we could also move that later. But, should we just?
So at this point, I reckon kind of good. Let's just update stuff as we go then. Anybody got an issue with the, or not an issue with the schedule, but anybody want to make comments, and I can start talking about something else after that. Okay. Well, in that case, let's talk about patterns of self-organisation. I'll just show a little bit of stuff that I prepped, maybe give some background, and then I'll articulate what I think self-organisation is. But I'd love to have a discussion about what other people think it is, because I think we need that common context to understand. And if we can create that, that's amazing. Go over here. Share my screen. So, from my understanding and my perspective of what self-organisation is, it's largely about membranes. So what happened in the primordial soup of things originally is we had hydrophilic and hydrophobic vitamins or phospholipids, and they created this boundary between inner and outer worlds. That's fats and oils and water. So when these lipids form, like in this picture, we create an enclosed membrane. So this is what we generally seem to do in many frames, like a Discord channel, Telegram channel, a company. There's a bunch of parallels here. So I wanted to show that as an example of how a cell membrane forms, and then what's happening there with the cells. We can again see many parallels across how we actually self-organize at scales and orders. So there's constant flow of resources and energy across the membrane to sustain itself. This is where we take in new energy or matter or vitamins, etc., minerals, and we get rid of them as well. And you can see that. You can see that in the parallels. I'm just going to complete that. So the parallel might be in a company you have a bunch of resources that would either be human resources or monetary resources, and within that boundary you have this flow of money in and out of the membrane that sustains the organization. These then arrange themselves into higher orders, so we get things cells into organs, organs into organs, organs into ecosystems. So this happens at multiple scales, which I find absolutely fascinating. And if we look at it on this micro scale, we can really kind of get a parallel of what a living organization might look like. So autopoiesis is the movement of life. It's far from the equilibrium state that maintains itself through this flow of energy and resources through membranes. And that's the characteristic of everything that's alive and living. So emergence, I just wanted to briefly cover. These are really loose topic points. But as positive feedback loops, we reach a threshold where the organism either breaks down or breaks through. So plants that are, or things that are not useful in evolution will break down and they'll get recycled in a syntropic circle, and things that are useful and do adapt in evolution, they survive and they break through. So as they do this, old structures that were holding them back fall away and new ones appear. Another pattern is ecosystems. Pioneer ecosystems have qualitative growth. Quantitative growth. They rapidly expand to fill the territory. And in human organizations, we could say that this is a number of members across channels. It could be getting a whole bunch of VC funding. It could be anything that's in the quantitative realm. So we do a lot of stuff and then some of it sticks. And then those old patterns fall away as we move into qualitative growth, where the expansion slows down and matures, and through iteration and refinement on what's already come before, we start to see more mature organisms. So birds that have changed their beak structures to work in a new environment, that's the breaking through and this iterating on the old beak structure into something new. So yeah, I just see loads of parallels with this in humans and human organizations. So there's all kinds of social membranes, Telegram groups, Discord channels, companies, and other solidarity groups. And these are usually, I find, constructed through either memetics or resources that people gather around. So that's the bit of background of what I think self-organization is. I don't know how clear I was, but I'd like to open the floor up for people to find parallels that they think are relevant. So I'm going to just pose the open question, and anybody that just wants to jump in, please do so. What is self-organization in your view?
It's a hard one. Even though I think that we exercise it every day. Then every time that I need to give an explanation of what I think self-organization is, I'm kind of stuck because it's kind of self-evident that I'm doing things for myself, and then if I'm trying to achieve the same things with other people, then I see that this group of people are self-organizing, and then I can see very clearly the emergence as more people uh, co- get coordinated to achieve those goals. But I like very much how you frame it in terms of organisms, because then we can have many analogies to look at in biology. So I don't know. I don't have a better way to put it than you did. Maybe someone else wants to give their thoughts.
Hi guys, I might jump in there. Probably most of you don't know me here. So I consider myself a practitioner of self-organization, let's say, for the past decade or so. And we you could see self-organization. You could see the traces of this within our environment. And the concept that comes to mind here is stigmergy. And I think they're very related concepts. Again, if you look at the digital environment in which we operate on the website, you look at the documents that we use, which is the environment where we produce text, where we plan our work, you find these elements of stigmergy that are baked into this environment. So a simple definition is the normal definition. I would start with stigmergy, which is using of your the use of the environment to leave traces or pheromones, so that other people around you pick up your past activity and build on top of that. So you leave some traces and you leave some signals that indicate where you're supposed to go, where's the higher probability of doing something creative, productive is, towards which direction. And for us, it has become very tangible. As I said, if you look around the environment, there's always a place where people can pick up the signals. We make very visible what has been done and what's important to be done in the future, so on and so forth. And that helps with self-organization, because you don't have to do central planning and then tell people what to do. Stigmergy takes over, and action organizes from the edges. It doesn't have to be centrally planned and centrally coordinated. Pass it on to someone else.
Thank you for that explanation. It really resonated. It made me think. I'm sorry, is there only noise outside? I hope you don't hear that. Made me think about like the traces. Sometimes we leave a lot of traces, and in a digital world, we leave sometimes so much traces that signals become noise. How do you find the balance? To me, that's a very interesting question.
As in which kind of traces we leave behind, because we know that those traces are going to influence other people around us.
Yeah, which brings me to think. I'm curious what you think about. I mean, self-organization is one aspect, but then you have self-adaptation, for instance, which is the relationship of the organization with the complex environment around it. So to me, self-organization means agency, and then communion is the next. So what is the relationship of that membrane with the environment around it? Yeah, so this was what came up, and also looking at like how we self-organize as humans these days. There is a lot of focus on the self, I believe, and less of the organization that needs to have that adaptation in there to the environment and others and to the biosphere, I would say.
On the bits and bobs that we do leave behind, one of the thoughts I have in like the stigmergic trail is like the question is, for me at least, is what do we appreciate? Because we can tell a story that can lead to unintended consequences, let's say. So the stories we tell, and this will tie into Monique's talk later, I reckon, but the stories we tell, can they be positive, that, or can they enable positive emergence rather than negative emergence? And I know this, positive and negative are two sides of the same thing, as we've probably discussed in the opening with Alain and Julian. And there's always these dualisms, but which stories do we create, and can they take us towards that future that we actually want to see, rather than screaming about the world being on fire, which, sure, it can be. It's usually a mess. And it always has been, as far as I can tell. But if we can tell, perhaps we can get to something that isn't an ecocide apocalypse or whatever. We can talk about, this is why the solar punk movement, or familiar with that term, it's like really appealing to me, because it's this kind of positivistic future rather than dystopian one that we can actually work towards. It's a focus on a solution of the problem. So I'll leave the floor open for another response, but just to be aware we're coming up to the half-hour mark, which means we'll check in top Ale and Julian, who will open the Unconf as we were all just kind of piling in here.
You just gave me a good idea that these are in a way stigmergic signals that other people build on.
You're on mute.
Yeah, I want to add something here because we talk a lot about self-organization. Systems always self-organizing to something, right? Either there's more central control or less central control. They always end up with a certain structure. So when it comes to groups, organizations, and going to this stigmergic mode of organizing or forming structure, we always have to ask the question, what is the structure that we'll end up with? Because it can evolve towards something that is not as productive as we want, or doesn't generate the behavior, the organizational behavior that we want. So organization, I think it's a very new mode of thinking, and everybody who's in it has a role to play to set up the boundaries and the internal conditions so that the system evolves towards a state that is visible for everybody. And there's different states, and there's always self-organization happening. So self-organization is not this magical process that leads us towards a desirable outcome. All right, so we always need to be conscious about what are the boundaries that we put around the system and the internal conditions, so that we migrate towards that state and not the other.
That's just I don't have a coherent statement, but there's like this notion that self-organization is a default what's left over when certain things are taken out, when conceptualization, when ideas, when planning and design is taken out, self-organizing is a default mechanism. And the conversation took it on with how to engineer organization on coming at an opposite direction. And it started for me, Josh, when you showed the diagram of the cell. It's a very common and misleading diagram because it turns out that the cell is rarely a round thing. It's actually more like this huge amoeba. It's like the surface is way more complicated, especially in 3D. And then I remember this notion that I encountered differently. If you think of the digestive tract that goes through our body, it is the outside world inside. The whole microbiome thing, the whole conversation, a membrane or a boundary, I feel maybe is slightly misleading. It's more complex than that. Inside, outside, what's brought in, what's left out. Yeah, those were my inputs.
100% Roman. It's the metabolism or the metabolic state that's the important part. It's the betweenness of the inside and outside world, where this flow of energy and matter and all this crosses and doesn't cross. And I'm no expert in biology, to be quite frank. I'm just taking a lot of inspiration from this stuff. So, anyway, last couple of statements from people. Otherwise, we'll go to Ale and Julie, if that works for you guys.
Yeah, I wanted to. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Alright. I just wanted to add to the statement. I think that self-organization has always an underlying signal. Like, for life, the underlying signal is survival, and that's why it self-organizes. So, because otherwise, there's no self-organization, it's just entropy. So there is something that there needs to be some gravity, for instance, with the self-organization of planets are just falling into place with the gravity. That is something that is very fluid. And for life, maybe there is a signal for survival. But I think that signal is very important to recognize, so to help a little bit into the self-organization. So I wonder, I wonder what you think about it. Companies might, the signal for companies might be just profit. And that's how you organize around profit. So you can also self-organize around profit. But you can also self-organize around the purpose. But that's kind of the underlying signal that allows people to self-organize. Without that signal, what other people do? Right? So I think it's important to not define, but to recognize the presence of that carrier.
So it's interesting that you mentioned this because you can also self-organize around intention, and that's kind of like a meta, because you ask yourself, what is it that I want? It's not that I just want to maximize profit because the person next to me is maximizing profit, but what is it that is my intention? This is replying also to that he was saying that we are oftentimes too self. I think that is, we cannot detach ourselves from the self because at the end it's absolutely what this intention is. And yes, we have to keep in mind what is it that our signals are going to be producing in other people and in which direction we are working all together as a group. But to me, the self is at the center of the topic precisely because it's our point of reference of each one of the people involved.
I'd also add me is just a story which I think
no, we'll probably take for a bit later. So we're talking about the interior subjective and intersubjective stories we tell, or the intentions to align around. But I'm going to shut the self-organization talk down and end that good with people. If you want to self-organize, go to the Urgence room or a solar lunar room and break out and keep discussing it. Cool, but we're going to move into Ale and Julian's discussion on dualities and maybe how we can leverage them. I'm not sure. See what they got to say. I'll open with that.
Cool, thanks.